I'm going to start it off with Anders, if you would introduce yourself, tell the audience here about a little bit what you do and all that stuff, and we'll let the conversation roll from there, right?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, first of all. I'm Anders, also known as Ullrs Blod, and I am a traditional ritualistic tattoo artist originating from Denmark. But since the last 3 years, I've basically been traveling around the globe and offering my art and my services within the realms of marking and tattooing the skin. So yeah, and I'm a father of 3 daughters and a partner of a wonderful, incredible woman, Sarah. And yeah, that I think in the short and whole is what's encapsulating who I am and walk as at the moment. There's more to come, definitely. Still growing.
Yes, still growing. I've been following you for quite a while now, and then one of our friends, Connor from Einar's Journey and stuff, he recommended me over to you, and he's like, oh, you guys got to interview him and all that kind of stuff. So I love how it came full circle. But I've been watching your whole ritualistic path for a while now, and the journey with your partner and all that stuff. And it's been absolutely beautiful. Like, I am dying for you to come to the US so I can just fly somewhere in there so you can tattoo me. I'm dying for it because of the whole, what I've observed, the whole ceremony that goes with it is just a forgotten art. Like, we go into places to get tattooed now and everything, we just, you go in there, you go with some person, you just lay there and you get your artwork done, and there's no energy behind it, there's no ceremony behind it. It's been kind of forgotten about. So do you want to kind of talk about things that go in? I mean, people can observe it on your social media and stuff. You do very, very good with your social media. I'm very impressed with it. But if you want to talk about it, what goes into it, what you're passionate about it, feel free.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, what I love the keyword, what I'm passionate about. Like, I have this deep knowing deep within. It's hard to describe, but when I first hand poked, the very first time, I just bought new machines, and when I first hand poked, I didn't go back to my machines ever again. There was something there, and I had no clue what it was. I was not at all on the path that I am now. It was back in 2014. Back then, I was simultaneously also writing a bachelor about how the human being or the human is designed to learn and thrive. And that brought me into this rabbit hole of 50,000 years ago human beings. And that opened up so much from me in terms of spirituality, in terms of community, individuality, and I have, through the years, through my continuous research and experiences and experimenting with marking, which is, for those who are not used to that term, that is what I call tattooing, when we are marking the skin. That marking done in a space and rooted in intentions and or even prayer has the ability to heal, to strengthen, to amplify, to grow, to assist a human being on his or her journey in life. And I remember when I first came across the Iceman Ötzi. I don't know if you're familiar with him, you probably are, who is having around 62 markings on his skin. And there are both markings that are thought of being for aesthetical reasons. And then there are the markings that are found on top of injuries or illnesses, which made it clear that, okay, markings have been used deliberately to ease pain, to heal. And that hasn't been coincidentally. It's something you've been doing continuously. It's something where you have had the experience, oh, this works. If not, you wouldn't do it 62 times. And he's just one. So it has been a practice in Europe pre what we call Viking Age, so Iron Age, Bronze Age. It has been a practice to use marking in spiritual and healing practices. And that was like, whoa, there is something here that we are not even close to grasping, a potential that is so much bigger than just looking in a certain way, marking our skin to be special, which also I found funny. Like, the more I studied tribes, many tribes, they mark their skin to strengthen the connection, to strengthen the collective. And modern days, people mostly get tattooed to be individuals and be special and not a part of the crowd, and yet then become a part of the tattooed crowd. Anyways, but that intention, that's what always is my anger. The intention for the marking was, I belong to this tribe. I stepped into manhood from boyhood. I became a woman. These rites of passages that were marked. I killed my first bear, or so there was this. They were carrying their history of the tribe on their skin, which have this very, very strong community energy, which is interesting when you then weave it together with the healing beliefs as well. Because then we have a community that is healing, or a knowing of community as a healing aspect in life. And it is all weaved together by marking the skin. And that I found deeply fascinating, and basically been since 2015 through practice and trying to figure out, and what you call it in archaeological ways, like dig out the truth about, and just knew that it had to be done through experience of my own, with people coming to me, my clients, if you will, and time after time trying to dig deeper into practice, into ritual, examining like what happens if we do this, what happens if I do that, and be very aware of what feels right and what doesn't feel right. Then I was so lucky that I was able to participate in some studies at some Nordic shamanistic studies in Copenhagen, and been diving into that area deeply ever since. Because there was something about the animistic world perspective that fitted very well together with the markings we see on skin from findings from earlier, from our ancestors, and the patterning and everything was just lining up extremely perfect. So yeah. That continuously became this weaving of and gathering of experiences and knowledge around practices, but always trying it out in own practice, and not just because I read that or heard that, this is how we do it. Because as as a North American shaman called Big Bear. He says that all knowledge we read in books in the university library, even here from the professors, are merely rumors. It's just rumors until we experience it ourselves. Then it becomes knowledge. Then we know. I know this is my truth. And that was like, whoa. I need to go out in nature and experience spirit there. I can't read about how ancestors were doing, how they were doing it earlier, even with our lack of knowledge. It makes it even harder. So I would say that my whole marking ritual is like this ongoing, and I'm still deepening it. It's this ongoing practice of rediscovering the old ways, not just of marking, but of being in right relations to nature, to other humans, to spirit, which is still very like new to me. I feel, even though it's like slowly 11 years that I've been practicing and exploring what is spirit, what is spirituality. I didn't even use that word until lately, because I wanted to know first what is it for me, and not from some book or buzzword, something like that, right? So yeah, when I work, it is the whole ceremony, as I choose to call it, is building on different rituals that are rooted in Nordic traditions, as far as I have been able to discover, made on the awareness that at some point across the entire Northern Hemisphere, basically all cultures looked the same, they sang the same, they danced the same, with slight differences. Back in the days, we had much more globally similarities than differences. And there was not so much bigotry about nations, and my border is here and yours is there, and now you get a missile in the head because you dishonored my border. All that bullshit. People were journeying all around the globe in their little boats and were very similar. So that's why I also feel we can learn from Siberian shamanism, from North American shamanism, from African, from Australian or Aboriginal and New Zealand traditions.
Yeah, it's a beautiful blending is what people used to do. And now it's very separate. That's all very beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing every bit of your story there and all that stuff. And I like that term, marking. I'm going to adopt that myself. I'm going to start using that. So I have kind of, I guess, all my own personal markings have been kind of built upon stuff like that. Like my arm has my shamanic journey and everything on there. Connor helped to make this for me. As you can see, it's very distinctly Connor's work.
Yeah.
But unintentionally, like I have my children on my leg and stuff like that, because that was a huge time in my life. And like everything has been built upon. I have a dragon on my back for that empowerment when I got to a point in my life where I needed to like break free of things. And it's cool to see. I kind of went that way a bit on my own, but I love how that's broken down. You're getting marked for a purpose, but you're getting marked for a community. It's not just about the self. It's about how it blends with the tribe, how it empowers the greater collective. So really beautiful, really beautiful.
Yeah, it's a very powerful awareness to have, right? Like it opens up new opportunities as well. And actually, we see it a bit in modern days, in maybe not the most fortunate areas of society, but we actually see it in gang-related cultures, that power of belonging. And just imagine those young men and women 50,000 years ago, they would have had a purpose.
I was going to ask that too, that because that's the first time I had heard of it. I don't know much about the history of tattooing, and especially the tribal tattooing and stuff. But yeah, could you tell us a bit more about that? How they so did they kind of get like a tribal tattoo, the exact same tattoo that they all have? Because I think of like gangs when we see that, but it makes sense that old tribes would do that too. So where in the world and what tribes have you found do those types of things? Like, and is it as a initiation that everybody gets, or is it only after you've completed a certain task or certain members of society? I would like to know anything about that.
100%. Yeah, there are different let's call it categories of markings. There are both the medicinal ones that might even have been mixed herbs in the ink with some relieving virtues. Then you have like markings that are with the intention of connecting you with spiritual aspects, to the sun or to the moon or whatever people have been believing in. And then you have like these, let's call it marks of honor, that you would be getting after an achievement. And those could often be the same. And that also makes sense, because it's basically like you get this medallion or something like that, or medal in the army. But they are all the same, and you get certain ones for certain actions of valor, of honor, of hunting. And then we have the Then we have those that are just like traditional, almost like a suit. Like I know the Samoans have the shorts that the men were carrying, and they all have this very broad line down from the lower back and down between the buttocks, and then there are variations in patterns, but there are some very specific symbols that are connected to the tribe's culture and history. We see in African cultures that that there are the examples of rites of passage, like going from boyhood to manhood. Then you have your skin marked. Not always like we think of skin marking. It could also be by cutting the skin. Like there's this crocodile tribe where the whole back on the young man when going from youth to grown man is being cut open. So he basically get these crocodile scars, like it looks like crocodile skin on his back. So those initiations, rites of passages, will tie the bonds together in the tribe, because I am, we are, and it all tie the tribe and the community and the village together. It's basically like a football team, just in a different way. The power of union. Yeah. And yeah, we have in the archaeology, we have different examples of these kind of markings. All the categories I went through. I'm not really sure. I haven't found a proof on that yet, but I could imagine that you would get markings as a preparation for something, for a big happening in life. If you know you're going into a big battle or a hard time or something, I have this feeling. I've been doing it actively on myself, and I feel it's been supportive. And when that period was over, I would then end the cycle with another marking, kind of opening and closing the space, opening and closing that era in my time where I knew a battle is upon me, and I need strength. So it's basically like when we see in the North Americans, like when you prepare for battle through physical dance into trance, into like exhaustion, and you reach different altered states of consciousness, right, through the physical activity. I believe that is what we can reach through the marking process as well, and therefore change our perspective on things in life, work with trauma from the past as it is being brought up in the process, and changing perspective, similar to what is becoming more and more experimented with when we are working with. I'm not an expert in that area, but I think like MDMA and things like that, or mushrooms, are being used in
like therapeutically, like legal in some countries now.
Exactly. Right? So it's not like, I wouldn't say that you go to a marking ceremony to go into therapy. I'm just saying that it has the potential to give you a space for facing and being with some things that can be hard to access out there in the noise, in the busy modern day life, when done right, when done with intention and held in a safe space.
Makes sense. Yeah, it's kind of like like it's almost like like a ceremony. Like it's here, like people want to get tattoos. They're addicted to it for a reason, you know. Some people can't stop getting them, so it is. People have said that's therapeutic too. What when you've spoke about the different ceremonies, and especially you, because you are one of the few people in the north of Europe who do the hand poking technique. Outside of course, like Northern European artwork and archaeological finds, where in the world have you got your most inspiration from? Was it Japanese that did the hand poking more than somewhere else, or do you did you learn a lot more from the Samoan or Pacific Island tattoo culture? If you could pick like maybe 2 or 3 places that you learned the most from, what would those be?
I was, before beginning my journey of becoming a tattoo artist, I was deeply fascinated with the modification cultures. They have these very incredible and like full body coverage marking culture. Besides that, I would say that nature has been not a specific style. Of course, I've been very devoted to learn and understand the art movements that is to be found in the Scandinavian history, in terms of the different Viking art styles, let's call it that, but also the Celtic styles I'm deeply fascinated with. But what they all have in common is that they are so rooted in the movements in nature. In water, the spiral is basically when you see water running out in of a sink, you have the spiral. That has been like globally been around the earth, that people has been understanding the magic and importance of water, the sacredness of water, that we came from water, the goddess living in the water, the womb energy in water. And so like my inspiration has always come back to nature, with a few impacts of Nordic, Celtic, and yeah, that's basically it. Then before tattooing, it was like modification, Maori. These styles I found hopelessly beautiful and powerful, and yeah. And then I will definitely credit Colin Dale for being the man who I first saw in modern days marking by hand, and that was like he awoke my curiosity for the the hand poke with integrity, if I can put it like that. I have experienced people on my path that kind of uses hand poke tattoos as an excuse to do more or less crappy work, without meaning any disrespect, but there's lying this underlying excuse that, oh yeah, but it's not with a machine, so the lines can't be as tight, or and Colin Dale, I felt when I found him, it was like he proved that you can do high quality tattooing by marking by hand, and that really ignited my fire for. I made it I don't know the English word, but like an obstacle for me, and a high bar for me, that I wanted my work to look like it was done by machine. Of course, I can't do these nice shadings as you can with machine and so on, but like just quality wise, that is what I set out to master, and I would say I'm still doing that, because it's an incredible goal to have, to master your craft. Far beyond. Yeah.
If I may, I have to say that I've seen a bit of your work through your Instagram and whatnot. I think it's actually a little bit better than what
Thank you, Dustin.
what a traditional machine. I mean, I've got tattoos that do represent, self and belonging, and what I come from. Not necessarily gang related, but the small tribal unities type things that my past has. And when I see the art style that you bring to not just the early Iron Age, late Bronze Age, but the actual tradition of putting that effort, putting that that intention behind it, it shows through not just the quality of the art pieces themselves, but through that connectedness, through that spiritual portrait that you are going there mentally, spiritually, to provide someone such a quality piece of work, also signifying that marking for them in their journey in life. So I think it's utterly beautiful. Not only that, it's amazing to hear your actual backstory on how you came to be this person of self that's not only bringing back things long lost, but you yourself and your journey. Like you were saying how you it changed you from the traditional style pieces with the guns and everything like that to the hand poke, kind of awakening a primal thing within self that helped you down this road on, I guess, seeking history. And I definitely love that you go as far back and say 50,000 years. I know we all love the Viking style and the Viking age, and there's something that draws that out of the persons, but it's almost because that's the most written record that we have. Well, if you could take yourself back farther than that, to the nature, to the spirituality and the beauty that is, we can then find our selves, if that makes any sense.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Definitely.
Right.
Yeah, that is another rabbit hole that could take an entire other podcast to elaborate on. But yeah, thank
Absolutely.
you
We'll
so
definitely
much
have
for
to
your
look at it.
workshops. Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
But I know we were speaking personally and all that stuff on the how colonialism and all that stuff coming in has destroyed a lot of our, like, forced us out of nature connection and all that kind of stuff. That's helping to just, people are easier to control when they're not connected, when they can be manipulated and all that kind of stuff. So we were talking on things like that, and it is something we all mutually share on how valuable reconnecting with spirit, with nature, with spirits, like land spirits, all that stuff. I know my personal path, I'm trained with the Pacos from Cusco, from the mountains in Peru. And they are very, very adamant on, you got to talk to land spirits, you got to talk to nature, you got to get back in. You need to learn anything, you learn from nature, go outside. I can only tell you so much, but you got to go out and you got to look for patterns. You got to talk to things that are beyond your physical sight.
Yeah.
You have to go do that experience.
I love that. Yeah, and that's such a beautiful layup to what I was mentioning just slightly before. As like the last year or so has really been constantly, I've been brought to this awareness of the more and more clearly it becomes that colonialism, the impact it has had globally, and how it's playing out right now in Gaza and further on, like how it's spreading out over the world. And really, it basically looks like death spasms of a dying construct. And it's getting so fucking desperate that it's just trying to pull everybody down with it. And I was like seeing how Maori is rising on New Zealand and standing up to government, how Aboriginals are standing up, how the North American tribes are standing up more and more and more. I was like, and what about us? And I realized, I just came to think of, like, because it's often talked and thought about, like, the Europeans were the one who then colonized the earth. And yes, they did. But what happened before that? There was a long history of brutalization, of torture, of burning and killing and suppressing the pagan ways. And to such a degree that we basically live in a collective amnesia in Europe, most people not even knowing, not even being able to read anywhere about our roots, because the church did such an incredible, effective job in deleting history. And the effect it has is that we can see it, like Australians are very often, and Americans are very often drawn to, for instance, Viking Age or cultures, or Celtic, or like people, they search for their roots because that is how we are designed. We have a genetically connection, a spiritual connection with our ancestors, with our roots, that has been flowing through all times and ages. And suddenly we find ourselves in a very different place. And that brings up this longing, this confusion, and slightly weakness. And when we ask ourselves, but why is that so? Well, it's because there were some people in power at some point who had an advantage, saw an advantage of pulling people out of nature, putting them into cities, putting them out into wars, putting them out to conquer the world, and then spreading that plague the true plague, the true pandemic, to spread out the colonial poison to the entire world, making people dislocated from nature and thereby to themselves, because we are nature. But the more robotic and electronic depending we can make human beings, the weaker and more confused they get, the less skills they have, the less they unite in community. So you have the blueprint on how to make a human weak. You don't need to ask ChatGPT to find out. You can just look at society, how they create our societies, how they separate us from each other under the disguise of individualism. And you have to be successful by gaining these and these and these and these materialistic bullshit things. And while chopping down and destroying nature to build more housing, more highways, more of what disconnects us from ourselves. So we have a global community, or not community, but population that are dislocated and are not in connection. And the problem with that is, for the normal human being, is that the opposite of connection is literally addiction. And when you grasp the meaning of that, then your mind will blow, because you will understand that if you as a power institution can disconnect people, what they will fall into is addiction to entertainment, to alcohol, to porn, to food, to drugs. And you have a very, very, very easy controllable population, which are probably necessary in their point of view, because there are a lot of us. So if we were united, if we were strong and healthy and connected, it would not be fun to try to control us. And that is something I am really, really, really aware of and passionate of, both in my work, when I meet and speak with people, and in the work I do beyond marking. And I am establishing men's work at the moment. I know there is a lot of men's work going on in the world today, and thank God, thanks for that. But there can't be enough, because there's so much need of, I would not even say good men, but healed men, strong men, healthy men. Because in my mind, all men and women are good, but we have been disconnected from it, amputated from the good and the healthy, in such a degree that it's becoming a dog-eat-dog kind of world out there, where women have to fear, to not feel safe through their life, because of not healthy masculine, I would say not healthy males, because the masculine in my mind is healthy. He knows integrity. He knows what is right and wrong. He will always serve to protect the feminine. But again, I do believe that somebody have had a way of control by making men not masculine. Yeah. So
Could you tell us more about that? The projects you're working on. You said you do some like male community stuff or something.
Yeah,
like that?
definitely. Thank you, Thor. Yeah, I am. I'm creating this. It's in several layers, but the first layer is to just make sure to give men a space with like-minded people, because there are many men's groups, as I said, and I think there's men's groups for all men slowly. But I think that through the persona I am, through the man I am, I can offer a place for men to come to who might not feel home elsewhere. And that doesn't mean that elsewhere is not good, not at all. It's just I acknowledge that we are all different, and we all have this navigation after somewhere where we feel good in ourselves, where we feel we can mirror ourselves with the village, so to say. So that is in the making. That should be launching in September, and starting on the online forum where I will have these weekly meetings where we will just simply gather and speak openly in safe space about what's moving in life, because that is step one: awareness and the practice of expressing. Because a lot of men has the experience from life that our expressions are too much or too little or too wrong or too just not right. So to me, and in my own experience of life through meeting my partner, Sarah, getting a safe space to express all emotions, that's life changing. And that can heal so much trauma, but it can also open up for that natural potential that we are birthed with, of growing into the healthy masculine, which I, by the way, believe is also lacking in culture, that we have these rites of passages from young men to manhood. In my eyes, one of the big problems out there is that they're running millions of boys around in men's bodies, and they are lacking role models. They are lacking modeling of how to become a healthy leader and masculine energy. So they look up to boys who are elder than them, but definitely not wiser. So we are in an evil circle unless we can break it through men's work, for instance, gatherings. And another level deeper is that I am creating in lack of better words, I just use retreat because that's something everybody can relate to. But it's basically a camp where we will be traveling 50,000 years back to be men. It's just for men, because there are so many women taking care of the women, and men for that sake. There is being done so much incredible work in the realm of the feminine. So there's that focus for me is full on the masculine, and we'll basically be working over several days, being in nature and working with physical health, mental health, and spiritual health through daily hunts, where of course we will not be literally hunting and killing animals, but we will be training all daylight from early morning till around midday afternoon. There's physical training, which will be in this shape of this, how to describe it, natural movement practices. So you will basically be training, learning movement skills that were used by our ancestors in order to be successful hunters. So crawling, climbing, throwing, running, lifting, carrying each other, carrying stones, boulders, all that. When the hunt is over, we return to camp and we build camp together. We cook together, and in the evening there will be the mental. That is the mental. It can't be avoided to be thriving through all those activities. But in the evening we gather around the fire like we used to do, and we will of course make the fire from scratch, and we will be talking men to men, and we will be diving into something that is very, very, very scary for many modern men, but something as dancing, because that is one of the most primal things that we have lost. We were dancing before we were talking. We were communicating through that movement before we were able to speak. And it's one of the movements that is suspected to have been able to develop our brain into the capacity it has to develop language, which is insanely interesting, because that also tells us that when we stop moving, we actually stop nourishing our mental and spiritual health as well. So when we begin to come into a spiritual practice where we're sitting on benches and just listening nicely and sweetly, we are cutting away one of the biggest one of the biggest resources to our spiritual activity, which is the movement in our body and expression of our body. And another scary thing, of course, will also be voicing. So singing and giving voice to emotions, feelings, and everything. So yeah, that is one of the big things that are coming in next year, after the men's work has been building up a bit. Then next year, that is one of the big projects.
Well, I'll help with that. Let me know any way I can help. I'll help promote it, of course. We'll release it on this video. Yeah, we're trying to do the same thing here in the US.
Incredible.
With a lot of different themes for the retreats. But exactly what you said is perfect. So let me know. I will promote it whenever it's up and running, and let me know. I'll help you so whenever I can to help with that.
And I will be traveling around with it, because that is my path. That is for now at least the path of the nomad. So with my markings and everything else, like that is what I want. I want to reach out to as many people as possible. So yeah, might even come to US with the package.
That would be absolutely wonderful. I absolutely love that. I love that you're doing men's work. I know many, other guys like Soren Schindler, who's actually a personal coach of mine, and Aaron Braun and all that stuff. They are doing, work for men and stuff out there too, because like there is a huge lack in that. Just me as just being a woman, I don't feel safe in the world because of that lack of that masculine, because with that strong protective masculine, the feminine can be chaotic, and in chaotic, it can be creative and it can be beautiful. And you need that balance of that masculine and feminine. And just my kids alone, I have a son, and people in his life are ones that are, I make sure that are that masculine type that show that, like, yes, you can be big and strong, but your value is also not judged on how big and strong you are. It's that inner strength. It's that, being able to do the right thing, even though it's hard, that it's okay to show emotion. It's okay to show, like you said, dance. And the first thing that came to my mind is, dance develops communication. You think about that, kids, babies, like when they're born, my kids were dancing to things before they spoke, like even little babies and stuff like that. And it's really beautiful to see that you're doing that work out there, because like I know men, in my life, and lost men in my life, because men's suicide rate is horrible because of work like this not being done. So thank you for doing that, because there are people that I love in life that, can be saved, that could develop and grow and become even more beautiful because of work that you guys are doing out there. So thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina.
Yeah, definitely. I have to say the same. Like we're all super looking forward to hearing more about this as it comes into fruition and whatnot. Definitely keep us posted. I'm gonna say for myself as well as the viewers on this, I'm gonna watch this a couple times to really get more out of it. You hit so many topics. I don't want to drag this on for 3 hours, but I'm sure I speak for all of us when I say we'll have to have you come back on so we can do this again very
Yeah,
soon.
I'd be honored. Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. So before we wrap this up, just let us know where you're going to be traveling to next, your future things and stuff, so people can come meet you and get marked by you and all that stuff.
Yeah, thank you, Christina. Yeah, that's actually that's really amazing, because I've been, maybe for the last 11 years, I've been dreaming about in some way getting out of the capital city life, and into nature.
And you're in Copenhagen right now.
I'm in Copenhagen, yeah.
Where can people find you in Copenhagen if they want to look you up, or they just message you on Instagram?
Oh yeah, that's Instagram, definitely. So if you're in Denmark, that's Instagram. Or if you want to be marked in Denmark, because I'm having quite a lot of German, and I've had people from Italy, from US coming over, and yeah, Instagram is my kind of platform. Yeah, and there I'm having a feed out in a very beautiful area close to Roskilde, which is an ancient, or the old capital of Denmark, when it was lying in the middle of everything before it became Copenhagen. But yeah, there I am to be found. And then I'm often in Germany. Now 2 weeks ago I was in Totnes in southern UK, where I will return this autumn, maybe even already in the summer, because I was just being so supported and well received that I might have to go back sooner than expected, and experience a bit of summer there. But the very big thing is that I am slowly beginning a transition to move to Norway, which I've been dreaming about for like 11 years, because of my love for the Norwegian nature, Swedish nature as well. But now I have been invited to come join on the farm of Bjørn, where Runahild is also living, the amazing musician and singer and just woman being. She's incredible. And I've been gifted the honor to come join them in their communal farm, and we shall be building some great visions up there. We want to build retreat spaces so we can offer all what we're doing, and just expand the ability to give these offerings in beautiful surroundings, in powerful surroundings, close to nature, in a way that gives people the opportunity to not go into the capitals to learn about nature, or have the nature experience, even though it's one of the greatest practices, right? Like, if we really want to go to the exam of connecting with nature, we go to the capital and we try to feel below the concrete. We try to tune into the wind on our skin, and when the sun finally comes up over the skyline, we really connect to it. That is the exam these days of connecting to nature. But it would be so much more powerful to bring people out in the most beautiful, powerful surroundings in the Norwegian mountains. So that is what's on my plate in the future, and I will be marking from Norway as well, which I look extremely much forward to. Hopefully at Midgårds Blod already. If there has been a little tattoo convention there the last couple of years. If it comes up again, I'll be there, and I'll also be journeying down through Sweden in August. So yeah, I'm a bit all over the place, but main areas at the moment will be Totnes, Norway, and Sweden. and Denmark. So that beautiful little circle.
Perfect. And yeah, everybody can find you on Instagram. We'll put your links down in the descriptions below, but
Thank you.
It's
Thank you, guys.
once_were hunters, right? Once_were_ hunters is how they find you on Instagram.
That is my movement page, Thor. So thank you for bringing that up.
Okay, yeah, we'll speak about that one too, maybe.
Ullrs Blod is the marking, and that's where most men's work announcements are coming. And my
even better. I think more of our listeners will like the Once Were Hunters page. But,
yeah.
For the tattoos, where can they find you?
That's Ullrs Blod. Ullrs_Blod.
Perfect.
I'll put all of the links in there below, so you guys can find whichever way you want to find them. You'll get them.
Exactly. Thank you so much,
All
guys.
right. Thank you for coming.
Yeah. Thank you.